Hi everyone, my name's Annie. Some of you may know me as Allaryce. The end of this year will mark my 2-year anniversary with streaming and being a part of the StarCraft 2 community. Over the course of these last 2 years, I've been going to LANs and going to StarCraft events and meeting so many people around the world. It's been a really amazing time, and this community has absolutely changed my life. I've only really been comfortable sharing my story in the past year, and I only ever tell people in person and at events. The more I share my story, the easier it gets to tell, so I figured it was about time that I share it with all of you. In the past few events, I realized that I've been seeing the same people over and over again, and I still haven't told them. I was kind of a little weird at HomeStory Cup, partly because I was sick and partly because it was the anniversary of my accident. In early November 2014, I was working on a freelance project for someone, and it was getting to be very late at night. The shop was about to close and I was very impatient. I just wanted to be done with. So I was easing the wood through the bandsaw and pushed a little too far, so I cut through my index and my middle finger on my right hand. If any of you are unfamiliar with what a bandsaw is, it's this very big machine that has a vertical rotating blade and it cuts wood. I probably used the bandsaw about 100 times before my accident, and I just never thought about it. I was always so super careful, and it was one of those things where I thought it wasn't going to happen to me. I wasn't going to be one of those people who cut themselves, and then it happened. So it's just one of those things where it happens when you least expect it, and you should never count yourself out. Well, I stopped the machine immediately, and a friend of mine was in the shop with me, so he called the ambulance. I didn't feel any pain when it happened. It wasn't until afterwards, when the shock wore off, that I started feeling the pain. Of course, there was blood all over the place. I didn't cry or anything, but I was freaking out. I'd lost a lot of blood, so they had to roll me down in an office chair to get me to the ambulance, and by that time, I kind of passed out. Like, I couldn't open my eyes, I couldn't really speak, but I could hear everything around me and I could feel people handling me. It was really late at night when I got to the hospital, so they had to call in a hand surgeon specialist in order to assess my situation and figure out what to do. So I was sitting there waiting for probably 2 hours or so before anyone could see me. I had to stay in the hospital overnight because they had to get a team together in order to perform my surgery, so I had to wait until early in the morning. They performed reconstructive surgery on my index and my middle finger, my bones, my tendons, my muscles, my nerves. So for a while I actually had rods sticking out of my fingertips because they were holding the bone in place in order for it to heal. I'm going to show you guys an x-ray of my hand after the first set of rods were removed. So if you have a weak stomach or you don't like looking at that stuff, I suggest you skip ahead a little bit. I needed to keep the rods in my index finger a lot longer than my middle one because I was easing it in this way, so this one got cut up much worse. So this is what my hand looks like now. I've taken a great deal to do as much as I can to reduce the scarring, and so did my surgeon. I'll never really be able to close my fist. I don't know what the best way of showing you guys this is. My fingers can't really go straight anymore. I generally am pretty okay with my hand. I don't have too many problems with it. Sometimes it gets a little sore. I'm right-handed, and so for a while after the surgery, I couldn't do anything. I had to pretty much like rethink my whole way of living because I only had my left hand. Because this is all happening right at the halfway mark of my senior year of college, so I was still working on my thesis, and that was really hard for me. I started physical therapy on my hand few months after my accident, and that went on for about a year. After physical therapy, I finished my thesis and got my diploma, and that was around the time I started really playing StarCraft and streaming because I was suffering from like a minor case of PTSD. I was very traumatized by the experience, and it was really hard for me to get back to doing what I was doing before, which was doing product design type stuff and doing prototyping So I used StarCraft as kind of a method of escapism. I pretty much just sunk a huge amount of time into it, and I was going to stop, but it just kind of took off. I started going to these events, I started getting way more into StarCraft than I originally intended, and it's just kind of funny how life goes on a different path sometimes. When I first started doing physical therapy, I couldn't even squeeze a foam block. It was really hard for me to regain mobilization in my right hand. So I first started playing StarCraft on a laptop, and I was just using the trackpad, so even like this motion was really helpful. So then from there I graduated to a mouse and all that stuff, and I started using my hand more normally again. Me sharing this story is basically my way of thanking everybody in the community for their support and acceptance of me, and for changing my life, meeting so many different amazing people around the world, and being able to travel the way I do, and for everyone who comes by to hang out on my stream, I just want to say thank you for an amazing 2 years, because my life has just been so different than what it was, and it's so strange to think that this has all happened in such a short period of time. And you guys really make me want to keep going with it. I mean, this was supposed to be something that I would drop in a few months, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna get back to it. It's gonna be, you know, back to the way I was, and I couldn't have asked for any other way to spend the last 2 years, honestly. You guys are all beautiful. Thank you for sitting and listening to my story. I just wanted to share the details of my accident with you guys. I hope you have a good one, and GLHF.